A dreaded alien warrior knocks on my door, not to kill, but to ask for something no one expected. The evening was quiet in a way that felt almost unreal. The small human colony of Greywill rarely knew true silence, but tonight the wind had settled, the distant machines had powered down, and even the insects seemed to have agreed to rest. Inside a modest house near the edge of the settlement, Elias Rowan was finishing a simple meal, moving slowly as if there were no reason to hurry. He lived alone, not because he disliked people, but because life had gently pushed him into solitude. Teaching history at the colony school paid little, yet it gave him something valuable: time to think. He had just placed a cup on the table when a sound echoed through the house. A knock. It was calm, heavy, precise. Elias froze. Nobody visited at this hour. Friends came during the day, deliveries arrived in the morning, and emergencies were announced by alarms, not polite knocking. The sound came again, exactly the same as before. 3 firm taps, evenly spaced, as if measured by a machine. He swallowed and glanced at the door. Greywill was human-controlled space, but humans were not alone in the galaxy. Everyone knew that. Still, visitors from beyond Earth's alliances did not arrive quietly, and they certainly did not knock. Elias moved toward the door, every step slower than the last. He told himself it was probably a mistake, maybe a lost traveler in a pressure suit or a damaged service drone. Yet something deep in his chest warned him otherwise. The air itself felt tense, stretched thin like a held breath. He reached the door and paused. His hand hovered near the lock. "Who is it?" he asked, his voice steady only because he forced it to be. There was a pause, then a voice spoke from the other side. "Elias Rowan," it said. The words were clear, perfectly shaped, yet strangely wrong, as if the speaker had learned human language by studying recordings rather than speaking to people. "I request permission to enter. I am unarmed." Elias' heart dropped. The voice was not human. Slowly, carefully, he opened the door. The figure standing outside filled the doorway and then some. It was tall, easily twice Elias' height, its body wrapped in dark armor that looked grown rather than built. The surface was smooth, marked with faint lines that glowed softly, pulsing like a slow heartbeat. Beneath the armor, glimpses of gray-blue skin could be seen, tight and strong. The head was narrow, with deep-set eyes that reflected the porch light like polished metal. Elias recognized it instantly. A Carthel, the galaxy's most feared warrior species. Stories about them filled every interstellar database. They were said to be bred for war, raised without mercy, and incapable of hesitation. When a Carthel fleet arrived, worlds surrendered or disappeared. There were no negotiations, no second chances. Elias' legs trembled, but the Carthel did not move. Instead, slowly and deliberately, it lowered itself. The massive figure bent one knee and then the other, bowing its head until it knelt before the doorway. "I come under the ancient law of shelter," the warrior said. "I will not harm you. I ask only for conversation." Elias stared, unable to speak. A Carthel kneeling on a human doorstep was something no historian had ever recorded. Fear pressed against his chest, but curiosity, strong and stubborn, pushed back. "Why me?" Elias finally asked. The warrior lifted its head. Its eyes met his, and for the first time Elias noticed something unexpected within them: uncertainty. "You study what humans call choice," the Carthel replied. "You teach young ones about decisions made long ago, about mistakes." Elias felt a chill. His work was simple, barely noticed beyond the colony. How could this creature know him? "You should not know who I am," Elias said. "I have studied you," the warrior said calmly. "Not as a target, as a question." The word hung between them. Elias stepped back without realizing it. The open door creaked slightly. He looked past the kneeling figure and into the dark street, half expecting to see ships in the sky or soldiers waiting just beyond the light. There was nothing, only quiet houses and distant stars. You're a Carthel," Elias said. "If you're here, it means something terrible is happening." "Yes," the warrior answered, "but not here, not yet." That was not comforting. "Please," Elias said, his voice softer now. "Stand up, someone might see you." The Carthel rose smoothly, its movements controlled and careful, as if trying not to frighten him further. It remained still, waiting. Elias hesitated, then stepped aside. "Come in," he said, surprising himself as much as anyone else. The warrior entered the house, ducking slightly to clear the doorway. The small room seemed to shrink around it. Elias closed the door behind them, the sound loud in the silence. For a moment, neither spoke. The Carthel looked around slowly, its gaze resting on the shelves of old books, the simple furniture, the half-finished meal on the table. It seemed to take everything in with quiet focus. "This dwelling is inefficient," it said. "Yet calm." "It's just a house," Elias replied. The warrior turned its head slightly. "That is what makes it unusual." They sat, Elias on a chair, the Carthel lowering itself to the floor with surprising care. Its armor shifted softly, like stone grinding against itself. "My designation is Valor," it said. "I am ranked among my kind." Elias nodded. "I'm guessing ranked means dangerous." Valor considered this. "It means I am expected to lead." A long silence followed. Elias folded his hands together, trying to stop them from shaking. "So why are you here, Valor?" The warrior's eyes dimmed slightly, the glow along its armor slowing. "I have been ordered to begin a cleansing," Valor said. "A system not far from this one. Billions of lives will be ended." Elias closed his eyes briefly. He had known this moment might come someday, yet hearing it spoken so calmly made his stomach twist. "And you came here to warn us?" Elias asked. "No," Valor said. "I came because I do not understand something." Elias opened his eyes. "I am experiencing delay," Valor continued. "Hesitation, this is not possible for my kind. Our purpose is clear. Our path is singular. Yet when the order was given, I did not act." Elias leaned forward slightly. "That's called doubt," he said carefully. Valor tilted its head. "My people have no word for that." "Then why not ask your own leaders?" Elias asked. A faint sound escaped Valor, almost like a low breath. "They would erase me." The room felt colder. "For the first time," Valor said, "I considered refusing. That thought alone makes me defective." Elias studied the towering figure before him. This was not the monster from the stories. This was something far more dangerous and far more fragile. "Why me?" Elias asked again. "Because humans are unpredictable," Valor replied. "You argue with your own nature. You fail, adapt, try again. You make choices that weaken you and survive anyway." Elias almost laughed, but stopped himself. "You think we're strong because we don't make sense," he said. "Yes," Valor answered simply. The honesty of it caught Elias off guard. Valor's gaze hardened slightly. "I need to understand how to choose, not between victory and defeat, but between obedience and self." Elias leaned back, exhaling slowly. "You're asking for something no one can really teach," he said. "Choice isn't a rule book." "That is why I came," Valor said. "If it were simple, my people would already possess it." Outside, the wind picked up, brushing against the house like a reminder that the universe was still moving, still waiting. Elias stood and walked toward the window. The stars looked peaceful, unaware of the decision forming in this small room. "If anyone finds out you're here," Elias said, "my world could panic." "I will leave if you command it," Valor said at once. Elias turned back, meeting the warrior's gaze. "No," he said after a moment. "If you came this far just to ask a question, then maybe the galaxy owes you an answer." Valor's armor pulsed faintly. "Then teach me," it said, "before my kind arrives." Elias felt the weight of that sentence settle over him like gravity. Somewhere beyond the stars, fleets were moving, timelines were closing, and here in a quiet house on the edge of a forgotten colony, a human and a warrior stood at the edge of something entirely new. Elias nodded once. "All right," he said. "We'll start with something simple." Valor waited. Elias gestured to the chair across from him. "Sit," he said, "and tell me who you think you are without your orders." For the first time in its existence, the Carthel warrior did not have an answer. Morning came slowly to Greywill, as if the planet itself was unsure whether it wanted to witness what was happening inside Elias Rowan's small house. Pale light slipped through the window, touching the walls, the books, the quiet table where two very different beings sat facing each other. Valor had not moved all night. The Carthel warrior remained seated on the floor, armor dim, posture perfectly still. Elias had slept only a little, stretched out on the couch with one eye half open, his mind running through fear, disbelief, and questions with no clear answers. Every small sound had pulled him back to wakefulness. Each time, Valor had been exactly where Elias left him. Still. Waiting, Elias finally stood and rubbed his eyes. "You don't sleep, do you?" he asked. Valor turned its head slightly. "Rest is a maintenance cycle for us. I delayed it." "Why?" "I did not wish to miss something," Valor said. Elias frowned. "Miss what?" Valor paused. "Understanding." Elias let out a quiet breath and walked toward the kitchen area. He moved carefully, not because Valor had threatened him, but because the situation still felt unreal. He filled a cup with water and drank deeply. You said last night you wanted to learn who you are without orders, Elias said. That's not something that happens in one night. I am aware, Vaylor replied. Time is a resource I am running out of. Elias glanced toward the window. The sky was calm, blue, innocent. Children would soon walk to school. People would go about their lives unaware that a single decision far above their world could end everything they knew. You mentioned your kind is coming, Elias said. How long do we have? Vaylor's eyes dimmed. 2 local cycles. Possibly less. Elias swallowed. 2 days. Then we don't have time for philosophy, Elias said. We need something practical. Vaylor tilted its head again. Define practical. Elias thought for a moment, then walked to the shelf and pulled out an old data tablet. He tapped the screen, bringing up archived recordings. Stories, he said. Humans use them to understand choices. Vaylor studied the device as if it were a weapon. This object contains instructions? No, Elias said with a faint smile. It contains mistakes. That seemed to interest Vaylor more. Elias sat across from the warrior and began playing a recorded interview. It was a simple story about an early space explorer who ignored orders to save a damaged crew, changing history forever. Vaylor listened without interrupting. When it ended, Vaylor spoke. This human disobeyed command, yet was rewarded. Sometimes, Elias said, not always. Then why risk it? Elias leaned back. Because following orders doesn't remove responsibility, you still live with the outcome. Vaylor processed this in silence. My people believe responsibility ends at obedience, Vaylor said slowly. Failure belongs to command, success belongs to design. And how does that make you feel? Elias asked. Vaylor's armor pulsed faintly. Empty. The word landed heavier than any threat. Throughout the day, Elias showed Vaylor more human experiences. Music played softly through the house. Old images of Earth filled the walls with oceans, forests, crowded cities, and quiet moments between people. Vaylor watched it all with focused attention. This music has no tactical value, Vaylor noted. No, Elias said. It has emotional value. Vaylor turned toward him. Explain. Elias shrugged. It helps us feel less alone. It reminds us someone else feels the same way. Vaylor considered this. Carthel do not feel alone. We are always part of the whole. That's not the same thing, Elias said gently. As the hours passed, Vaylor began asking questions, not about strategy or conquest, but about people. Why do humans argue with their leaders? You admit ignorance, Vaylor said. That would be seen as weakness. It is, Elias replied, but it's also honest. By evening, something subtle had changed. Vaylor's posture was still controlled, but not rigid. Its gaze lingered longer on certain images. When Elias laughed at an old recording, Vaylor did not understand the humor, but it tried to analyze the sound, as if the laughter itself carried meaning. Then the transmission came. Vaylor stiffened suddenly, armor glowing brighter. They are scanning, Vaylor said. My delay has been noticed. Elias' heart raced. Can they see you? Not directly, Vaylor replied, but they sense irregularity, emotional variance. That's new, right? Elias asked. Yes, Vaylor said, and dangerous. The air seemed to thicken. Elias felt the weight of the situation pressing down on him. What happens if they find you defective? Elias asked quietly. I will be reclaimed, Vaylor said. My memories will be erased, my body repurposed. Elias clenched his fists. That's not justice, that's disposal. Vaylor looked at him. That is efficiency. Elias stood and began pacing. You said your fleet listens to you, you're ranked. Yes, then they trust you. They obey me, Vaylor corrected. Elias stopped pacing. What if you talked to them? Vaylor's eyes locked onto him. That would be refusal. Yes, Elias said. That's the point. Silence filled the room. That action would change everything, Vaylor said. For me, for them. Choice does that, Elias replied. Vaylor's armor dimmed again. I am afraid. Elias nodded. So are humans. All the time? Vaylor studied him. Yet you continue. Because fear doesn't mean stop, Elias said. It means decide carefully. Night fell again. Outside, the stars burned quietly, unaware of how close they were to becoming witnesses. Vaylor stood and walked toward the window. Its massive frame cast a long shadow across the room. My people believe humans are weak because you hesitate, Vaylor said. Now I see you hesitate because you care. Elias smiled faintly. Sometimes caring gets us killed, sometimes it saves everyone. Vaylor turned back to him. If I speak to my fleet, I will not know the outcome. Elias met its gaze. Neither do I. Another transmission pulsed through Vaylor's armor, stronger this time. They are waiting for my signal, Vaylor said. If I give it, the cleansing begins. And if you do, Elias asked. Vaylor hesitated, just for a fraction of a second. That is something I must choose, Vaylor said. Elias felt a strange mix of fear and pride. You already are choosing, he said softly. Vaylor stood silent, processing, struggling, changing. Somewhere in the dark of space, engines waited, orders waited, a galaxy waited. And inside a small human house, a warrior born for destruction stood on the edge of becoming something else entirely. For the first time, Vaylor did not ask what it should do. It asked itself. The third day began with tension so thick it felt like it had weight. Elias woke before the light reached the windows, his chest tight, his thoughts tangled. For a moment he forgot why he felt afraid. Then he saw Vaylor standing near the window, staring into the dark sky, and everything rushed back. The Carthel warrior had changed again. The armor still covered Vaylor's body, but its glow was uneven now, no longer pulsing in perfect rhythm. Small pauses appeared between movements, tiny delays that would have been invisible to anyone else. To Elias they felt important. You're thinking, Elias said quietly. Vaylor turned. Yes, you didn't do that much before. No, Vaylor agreed. Before I executed. Elias sat up and stretched, then paused. Did they contact you again? Yes, Vaylor said, repeatedly, and you didn't answer. I delayed, Vaylor replied. Again. Elias nodded slowly. That's 2 delays now. Vaylor considered that. That makes a pattern. Outside, the colony was waking. Footsteps passed by the house. A distant transport hummed. Life continued, unaware of how close it stood to an ending that was still undecided. Elias moved to the kitchen and began preparing food. He offered some to Vaylor out of habit, then stopped himself. You don't eat, he said. No, Vaylor replied, but I observe. Elias smiled faintly. That's very human of you. Vaylor tilted its head. Explain. We learn by watching others, Elias said. Sometimes more than by doing. Vaylor processed this silently. As the morning passed, Elias decided to push further. Teaching stories and ideas was one thing, but Vaylor needed to experience choice, not just hear about it. I want to try something, Elias said. Vaylor turned fully toward him. Proceed. Elias hesitated. That word again, you don't have to follow everything I say. Vaylor paused. Understood, continue. Elias took a breath. I'm going to give you options, simple ones, you choose, and I won't guide you. Vaylor stood very still. This is inefficient. Yes, Elias said, that's the point. He walked to the shelf and picked up 2 small objects. One was an old paper book worn at the edges. The other was a smooth metal cube, a simple puzzle toy. Which one? Elias asked. Vaylor stared at both. Time passed, too much time for such a simple question. The book contains recorded human thought, Vaylor said. The cube is a challenge. Right, Elias said. Which do you want? Vaylor's armor dimmed. There is no correct choice. Elias smiled. Now you're getting it. Vaylor reached out slowly and picked up the book. Elias did not react. Vaylor looked up. You do not confirm. There's nothing to confirm, Elias said. You chose. Vaylor held the book as if it might disappear. This feels unstable. Welcome to being human, Elias said. Vaylor opened the book carefully. The pages were filled with simple writing, old reflections about life, fear, hope, and failure. Vaylor read in silence, absorbing each word with intense focus. I do not understand why humans preserve imperfection, Vaylor said after a while. Elias leaned back in his chair. Because perfection doesn't grow. That seemed to trouble Vaylor. As the hours passed, Vaylor asked fewer questions and spent more time thinking. Elias noticed the warrior occasionally stopping mid-sentence, as if reconsidering words before speaking. That alone felt like a miracle. Then the alert came, not from Vaylor, but from the colony. A distant warning tone echoed through Greywill. Not an evacuation alarm, but a system-wide notice. Elias' wrist display activated automatically. Unidentified fleet detected at extreme range. Elias' heart sank. They're close, Elias said. Yes, Vaylor replied. They are no longer waiting. Elias stood and walked to the window. The sky looked the same, but knowing what was beyond it changed everything. What happens now? Elias asked. Vaylor did not answer immediately. I have been ordered to confirm readiness, Vaylor said finally. If I do not respond, command will assume failure. And then? Elias asked. They will act without me, Vaylor said. Elias turned sharply. Can they do that? Yes, Vaylor replied, but it would break protocol. I am designed to be the first. Elias rubbed his face. So if you speak, you delay them. If you stay silent, they move on their own. Correct. Elias let out a shaky breath. So talking buys time. Yes. Then talk, Elias said. Even if you don't know what to say. Vaylor looked at him. What if I say the wrong thing? Elias met its gaze. That's a risk we live with every day. Vaylor was silent for a long moment. Then its armor brightened slightly, not with command readiness, but with something uncertain and uneven. I will open a channel, Vaylor said. Elias nodded. I'll be right here. Vaylor stood in the center of the room. Symbols of alien design shimmered across its armor as it connected to the fleet. The air seemed to hum, though no sound came from the device. Vaylor's voice changed when it spoke again. It became louder, more formal, echoing slightly as if carried across vast distance. I am Vaylor, it said. I am present. The reply came instantly, though Elias could not hear it. He could only see Vaylor stiffen. They demand status, Vaylor said quietly to Elias. Tell them the truth, Elias whispered. At least part of it. Vaylor hesitated, then spoke again. I have not yet initiated the cleansing, Vaylor said. I am evaluating. The pause that followed felt endless. They are confused, Vaylor said. Confusion is spreading through the command structure. Elias felt a strange hope rise in his chest. They want justification, Vaylor continued. They require reason, Elias swallowed. Give them one. Vaylor's voice softened, losing some of its rigid tone. I am requesting delay, Vaylor said into the channel. I am observing the target species more closely. Another long pause. They are asking why, Vaylor said. Elias stepped closer. Because you saw something worth understanding. Vaylor's armor flickered, then it spoke. Because humans are not what we believed, Vaylor said. They are inconsistent, yet they endure. The silence that followed was different, heavy, unstable. They are receiving this poorly, Vaylor said. Some agree, some resist. Let them argue, Elias said softly. That's how change starts. Vaylor turned slightly toward him, though still connected to the fleet. I am doing this without certainty, Vaylor said. Elias nodded. So am I. Suddenly, Vaylor stiffened again. A new signal, Vaylor said, from another warrior. Elias' heart raced. Another one like you? Unlikely, Vaylor replied, but curious. Vaylor listened, then spoke aloud. They ask why I sound different, Vaylor said. They say I am slowing. Elias almost laughed, then stopped himself. What will you say? Elias asked. Vaylor was quiet for a long time. I will say, Vaylor began, that slowing allowed me to see. Vaylor transmitted the message. Something changed. Vaylor's armor dimmed, then stabilized, not into the old perfect rhythm, but into a new, uneven pattern. Its posture relaxed slightly, as if some internal pressure had eased. They did not disconnect me, Vaylor said. They are listening. Elias sat down hard on the chair. That's good, right? Yes, Vaylor said. It is unexpected. Outside, the warning tone faded. Not because the threat was gone, but because something had paused it. Vaylor turned fully to Elias now, disconnecting from the channel. What I am doing, Vaylor said, has no precedent. Elias smiled tiredly. Human history is full of that. Vaylor looked at its hands. If this ends badly, my kind may reject this path. Elias nodded. And if it ends well, Vaylor looked up. Then I will no longer be alone in my doubt. Elias felt a lump in his throat. That's how it starts, he said. Far above the planet, fleets hovered in uncertainty. Commands were questioned. For the first time in their long history, the Carthel were not moving forward as one. And in a small house on a quiet colony world, a warrior designed for destruction sat with a human teacher, learning that hesitation was not failure. The fourth day did not begin with morning light. It began with the sky changing. Elias noticed it first while standing near the window. The stars above Greywell looked sharper, brighter, as if the darkness between them had thinned. Then his wrist display vibrated softly, not with an alarm, but with a system notice that carried a quiet fear inside it. Multiple large objects now visible in orbit. Elias closed his eyes for a moment. They're here, he said. Vaylor stood beside him, looking up through the glass. The Carthel warrior did not tense the way it once would have. Instead, it watched in silence as if observing a storm that might still change direction. Yes, Vaylor said, the fleet has arrived. Outside, the colony was beginning to react. Doors opened. People stepped out and looked up. Voices rose, confused, frightened, asking questions no one could answer yet. There were no explosions, no attacks, only the heavy presence of something vast and unknown hanging above them. Elias turned to Vaylor. "Are they waiting for you?" Vaylor nodded. "They are holding position. This is unusual." "Because of you," Elias said. "Because of doubt," Vaylor corrected. The house felt smaller than ever. Every sound from outside seemed louder now, every passing moment heavier. Elias felt the urge to do something, anything, but there was nowhere to run and nothing to fight. "People are going to panic," Elias said. "If they don't already know who you are." Vaylor considered this. "Fear is spreading, but slowly. Humans observe before reacting." Elias gave a tired smile. "Sometimes." A new signal rippled across Vaylor's armor. Symbols flared, brighter and more complex than before. "They are requesting a full address," Vaylor said, "to the fleet and to observers." Elias froze. "Observers?" "Yes," Vaylor replied. "Other species are watching. When Carthel fleets stop, the galaxy pays attention." Elias' stomach tightened. "So whatever you say, it won't just be to your people." "Correct," Vaylor said. "It will be heard by many." Elias ran a hand through his hair. "No pressure, then." Vaylor turned its head slightly. "You are afraid." "Yes," Elias said honestly. "Very." "Yet you remain," Vaylor said. "So do you," Elias replied. For a moment, neither spoke. Vaylor stepped away from the window and stood in the center of the room again. The glow of its armor steadied, not perfect, but deliberate. "I will speak," Vaylor said, "but not alone." Elias blinked. "What do you mean?" "I will not speak only as Carthel," Vaylor said. "I will speak as one who has learned from humans." Elias' heart skipped. "You want to mention us?" "Yes," Vaylor replied. "Specifically you." Elias took a step back. "That's dangerous." "Truth often is," Vaylor said. Elias laughed weakly. "I'm just a teacher." "That is why you matter," Vaylor said. "You are not a leader of armies. You are a leader of questions." Elias did not know what to say to that. Outside, a low hum passed through the air. Not sound exactly, but pressure like the sky itself was adjusting. The fleet was aligning, waiting. Vaylor raised one arm slightly. Light spread across its armor, forming a projection in the air. The room filled with shifting symbols that slowly translated into shapes Elias could understand. Vast chambers, distant stars, countless figures watching from far away. "This channel is open," Vaylor said. "Once I begin, I cannot retract it." Elias swallowed. "Then say what you believe." Vaylor looked at him. "I am still learning what that is." "That's okay," Elias said. "So is everyone else." Vaylor turned back toward the projection. Its voice changed again, carrying weight and reach, but this time something else was mixed into it, uncertainty and choice. "I am Vaylor," it began. "I stand before you not as a flawless instrument, but as a thinking one." A ripple moved through the projection. Elias could not hear the responses, but he could feel them like distant thunder. "For cycles beyond counting," Vaylor continued, "we have believed purpose required silence of self. We believed obedience was purity." Vaylor paused. Elias held his breath. "I was sent to destroy," Vaylor said. "Instead, I observed." More ripples, more unrest. "I lived among humans," Vaylor said. "A species we labeled weak because they hesitate. I now understand that hesitation is not weakness, it is evaluation." Elias' chest tightened. "They do not follow a single path," Vaylor went on. "They argue, they fail, they change, yet they endure longer than many stronger forms." The projection shimmered as if strained. "I ask you," Vaylor said, "what is strength if it cannot change?" Silence. Then Vaylor did something Elias did not expect. It lowered its head. "I request delay," Vaylor said, "not out of defiance but out of responsibility." The reaction was immediate. The projection flared wildly. Elias could see fragments of alien forms, movement, confusion, resistance. "They are divided," Vaylor said quietly, "more than before." "That's not bad," Elias whispered. "That means they're thinking." Vaylor lifted its head. "Some demand my removal, others demand explanation." "Give them more," Elias said. Vaylor nodded. "I was taught by a human," Vaylor said. "Not in combat, not in strategy, but in identity." Vaylor turned slightly, and Elias realized, too late, that Vaylor was projecting an image of the small house, of the books, of Elias himself. "My instructor is unremarkable by military standards," Vaylor said. "That is precisely why he matters." Elias felt heat rush to his face. "He taught me that choice does not guarantee survival," Vaylor continued. "It only guarantees ownership of outcome." The projection shook. "They ask what you propose instead of cleansing," Vaylor said to Elias. Elias' heart raced. "Me?" "Yes," Vaylor said. "They want an alternative." Elias stared at the projection, at the distant shapes of beings who could erase his world with a thought. I don't have a grand plan, Elias said softly. Humans rarely do. Say that, Vaylor replied. Elias took a shaky breath and stepped closer to Vaylor. His voice was not projected, but Vaylor translated it, carried it outward. We don't know everything, Elias said. We make mistakes, but we talk before we destroy, we learn before we judge. Vaylor repeated his words. Elias continued, his voice steadier now. If you want to understand us, don't wipe us out. Watch us, argue with us, let us surprise you. The projection grew quiet. Not still, but attentive. They are considering, Vaylor said. Minutes passed, long ones. Outside, the colony stood frozen, staring at the sky. No one ran, no one screamed. They waited because waiting was all they could do. Finally, Vaylor straightened. A proposal has been made, Vaylor said. A single world will be observed instead of cleansed. Elias' knees nearly gave out. Gray will? Yes, Vaylor said. This world. Elias laughed softly, half in relief, half in disbelief. So we become an experiment. Vaylor looked at him. You already are, you just never noticed. Another pause. They are also questioning the doctrine, Vaylor added. Not all accept this, but the question now exists. Elias let out a long breath. That's huge. Yes, Vaylor said. It cannot be undone. The projection began to fade. The fleet did not move closer. Instead, some ships shifted position, spreading out, watching instead of advancing. Vaylor lowered its arm. The room felt suddenly very quiet. It is not peace, Vaylor said, but it is not annihilation. Elias sat down heavily. I'll take that. Vaylor turned to him. I have changed the path of my people. Elias looked up. You did that. I could not have without you, Vaylor said. Elias shook his head. You could have walked away. But I did not, Vaylor said. That was my choice. For a moment they simply stood there, two beings from different worlds, sharing the weight of what had just happened. Outside, the sky slowly returned to normal. The stars remained distant and bright, but now they felt less like witnesses and more like possibilities. Elias finally spoke. What happens to you now? Vaylor considered this. I will be watched, questioned, possibly challenged. And you're okay with that? Elias asked. Vaylor's armor pulsed softly. I am no longer designed only to be okay. I am designed to decide. Elias smiled, tired but genuine. The galaxy had not changed in a single moment, but something had cracked. Something rigid had bent. The fifth day felt different before Elias even opened his eyes. The house was quiet but not tense. The air no longer felt like it was waiting to break. When Elias sat up and looked around, sunlight filled the room in a warm, steady way. For the first time since Vaylor had arrived, the morning did not feel borrowed. Vaylor stood near the table, no longer staring at the sky. Instead, the Carthel warrior was examining a simple object Elias had left there the night before, a handwritten note from one of his students, thanking him for helping them understand history. You are awake, Vaylor said. Elias nodded. You didn't leave. No, Vaylor replied. I chose to stay. Those words still felt strange to hear spoken so naturally. Elias stood and stretched. Any new messages? Yes, Vaylor said. Many, Elias sighed. Good ones, I hope. Some, Vaylor answered. Others are uncertain. Elias smiled slightly. That's progress. Outside, Graywell was alive again. People moved through the streets, talking, pointing at the sky, checking their displays. The fleet was still there, but farther away now, spread out, watching instead of pressing down. They haven't left, Elias said, joining Vaylor at the window. No, Vaylor said, but they are no longer aligned for cleansing. That's a sentence I never thought I'd hear, Elias said. Vaylor turned toward him. Your species often says such things, Elias chuckled. Fair. There was a pause, then Vaylor spoke again, more slowly. I have been given a new designation, Vaylor said. Elias looked up. That sounds important. I am no longer classified as a frontline instrument, Vaylor said. I am now listed as an observer. Elias blinked. An observer? Yes, Vaylor said, and a communicator. Elias felt a strange warmth in his chest. So, an ambassador, Vaylor considered the word. That term is acceptable. Elias laughed quietly. Congratulations, the galaxy's scariest warrior just got a desk job. Vaylor did not understand the humor, but it noted the tone. This pleases you. It does, Elias said, more than you know. As the day went on, the house no longer felt like a hiding place. People began to approach cautiously, curious rather than afraid. News traveled fast on a small colony, and rumors traveled even faster. Some knew an alien had been present. Some guessed. Others simply felt that something important had happened and wanted to be close to it. Valor remained inside, respecting Elias' request not to cause panic. Instead, it listened as Elias spoke with neighbors through the door, offering calm explanations without details. "They trust you," Valor observed. "Not completely," Elias said, "but enough." "That is sufficient," Valor replied. Later, Valor asked to walk outside. Elias hesitated, then nodded. "All right, but slowly." Valor stepped into the sunlight. People froze. A few gasped, some stepped back, others stared in silent disbelief. The feared shape from stories and warnings stood in the open, unmoving, not threatening, not advancing. Valor lowered its head slightly. "I will not harm you," Valor said, its voice steady and clear. The words spread faster than fear. No one screamed. No one ran. One child, small and curious, stepped forward before their parent could stop them. The child looked up at Valor, eyes wide. "Are you really from the stars?" the child asked. Valor paused, then answered carefully. "Yes." The child nodded, satisfied. "Okay." That single moment did more than any speech could have. Over the next hours, Valor returned inside, but the world outside felt changed. Less fragile, less doomed. That evening, as the stars appeared again, Valor received another message. This one was different, longer, heavier. "They have made a decision," Valor said. Elias sat across from him, bracing himself. "Go on." "They will not cleanse this system," Valor said, "nor several others marked for review." Elias closed his eyes in relief. "They will observe," Valor continued. "They will study, they will question." Elias opened his eyes. "That's a huge shift." "Yes," Valor said, "it has created instability." Elias smiled sadly. "Change usually does." Valor looked at him. "Some among my kind believe this will weaken us." "And what do you think?" Elias asked. Valor did not answer immediately. "I believe," Valor said slowly, "that strength which cannot doubt will eventually break." Elias felt a quiet pride he did not try to hide. "What about you?" Elias asked. "What happens now?" Valor looked around the room, at the books, at the chair where Elias taught. At the small, ordinary space where something extraordinary had begun. "I will travel," Valor said. "I will speak to others, I will listen." Elias nodded. "You're going to change things." "Not alone," Valor said, "but I will begin conversations that were once impossible." Elias leaned back. "That's all anyone can really do." They sat in silence for a while, watching the stars. Then, unexpectedly, Valor spoke again. "I wish to ask something," Valor said. Elias smiled. "You don't have to ask permission for that anymore." Valor's armor pulsed faintly. "May I return?" Elias blinked. "Return to this place," Valor clarified, "at times when uncertainty becomes heavy." Elias felt his throat tight. "Yeah," he said softly, "you can come back." Valor inclined its head. "Thank you." That night the fleet began to withdraw, not leaving completely, but moving farther out, like a tide pulling back instead of crashing forward. Across the galaxy, messages spread. Analysts argued. Leaders debated. Ancient assumptions cracked under the weight of a simple idea. Weeks later, Elias stood at the same door where it had all begun. The colony was calmer now. Life had resumed, though nothing felt quite the same. There was a knock, not heavy, not measured, just a normal knock. Elias opened the door. Valor stood there, smaller somehow, without the weight of destiny pressing down so hard. The armor was still present, but the glow was softer, less rigid. "I was nearby," Valor said, "and I had a question." Elias smiled. "Come in." Inside, they sat once more. "I am teaching others now," Valor said. "Not obedience, but reflection." Elias nodded. "That won't be easy." "No," Valor agreed. "Some resist, some fear it." "Humans did too," Elias said. "Still do." Valor looked at him. "Your species has been labeled many things since I spoke." Elias raised an eyebrow. "Let me guess, dangerous." "Yes," Valor said, "but not for the reason we believed." Elias waited. "You are dangerous," Valor said, "because you teach others they can be more than what they were made to be." Elias laughed quietly. "That might be the nicest threat anyone has ever given us." Valor's armor pulsed gently. "The galaxy is changing." "Slowly," Elias said. "Yes," Valor agreed, "but permanently." Outside, stars burned in patterns older than fear and whiter than war. Humanity did not rule the galaxy. It did not conquer it. It did something far more unsettling. It made the universe stop and ask itself a question.